charge extra for nights, weekends, or holidays. Remember the commercials? If water runs through it, they do it. And they're already on their way. So get this monstrosity out of my yard.
On next week's episode of What Not to Do.
A crane? Really?
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this morning. One of the most difficult things I think that we face as human beings is finding a way to live in peace. And you know, we always say, you know, give peace a chance and let's stop all the wars. And then you hear people in your own neighborhood, husbands and wives fighting. It's like, how we can't even get along sometimes. The two people who love each other sometimes don't even avoid conflict, and yet we try to diffuse gigantic situations, and hopefully we are successful at those. In the course of a marriage, you have two people who love each other, and yet in the course of a marriage, quite often there's abuse. Go figure. I don't understand it. Randy Susan Meyers is on the phone. And looking at her book for the very first time. Did it just arrive?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I've been reading about her book, and so now I can't wait to read it. But here's the fascinating thing, and for those of you who know that we typically schedule novelists for short interviews, Randy Susan Meyers has been scheduled for the whole segment here because she is not just a novelist. She wrote about something she knows a lot about. The book is called Accidents of Marriage, Exploring Emotional Abuse and Traumatic Brain Injury with Unblinking Honesty. Right?
Yes.
And from what I understand, it is a novel.
Yes.
Right? I have that right? Okay. And Randy, I know you're listening. I apologize. We just got it. It just came into the studio just a second. But Randy works with batterers, the bad guys, and victims, the good guys, in most cases the good girls, of domestic violence. She works with youth impacted by street violence as well. She's a contributor to the Huffington Post, and she's a teacher of writing seminars. She is a best-selling author, and I can see why. Just looking at the notes that prepared me for this, I was able to see that there's a story here. I'm going to let her tell you the story, but it's one of those I'll probably pick up as soon as we get off the air today. Randy Susan Meyers. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Larry. Thank you for having me, and thank you for that not only wonderful but incredibly insightful introduction. Boy, you know your stuff, I'll tell you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Where are you right now? You sound like you got my accent. Where are you from?
I am in Boston, but I grew up in Brooklyn, so if that's what you're hearing...
That must be what I hear, yeah. I don't know.
Are you a New York boy originally?
Long Island, yeah, but my dad was from Brooklyn, Mom was from the Bronx, so...
Yep.
Well, thank you for being on the air with us. How do you end up working with the batterers? It's easy to see helping somebody who's been hurt, but how do you help somebody who's hurting somebody else?
Well, actually, this is the way I look at it. If we don't work with the perpetrators, we're never going to stop the problem. It's like trying to stop rape by just asking women to wear burqas. It's the men who are the perpetrators, the men who need to learn nonviolence. What my job was working with men who were mandated, they were adjudicated. The courts had sent them. I wasn't their counselor. I was their teacher. We ran state groups for a batterer intervention program, teaching them tools of nonviolence. They had to be there for a year. They had to pay for the program. They did not come in happy to be there. They did not come in happy to pay for it. But they went through it. And I feel really strongly that working with the men is as important as working with the women. Not to give them support, but to teach them tools. Most of all, I would love to see programs in the schools to try to teach boys about this.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And it amazes me that we're not teaching our boys anyway. I mean, as parents, somehow we're dropping the ball, and maybe you've got a lot more insight into that than I'll ever have. But let me ask you this. In a marriage, as opposed to street violence, and I know you've spoken to those people as well, the violator, the one hurting the other, somehow in a quirky way loves his wife. Or maybe I'm wrong about that. It's like the street guy. He doesn't love the person he's hitting or killing or shooting or whatever. But a guy who's beating his wife, the irony is he loves it. In your story, from what I read, your protagonist, or maybe she's the protagonist, but the husband loves the wife.
Actually, I tell the story from the point of view of the husband, the wife, and the 14-year-old daughter, because all of their stories need to be told. And I love telling all their stories. But you are right, Larry. You actually hit it, what many people take years to understand. These are people who are hurting people they love. And that's why it's so hard to change, because they move into such intense denial, because who wants to admit they're hurting somebody they love? And so it keeps them even further. And why do we hurt people we love? Well, there's a number of reasons. The number one, after 10, I don't work with the guys anymore, but I did for 10 years.
Uh-huh.
And after 10 years, I can tell you there's two major reasons that they were violent in their homes. One, to get what they wanted, and it worked. Two, to have a shut the blank up. I mean, really, it's so sad what it comes down to. It's not having tools for control and using your family to offload your own frustration. Think of ourselves. When I went to work with the guys, I'm a mother of two daughters, and I thought, well, I'm a really great mom, and I've never hit my kids, and I always said I'd never hit my kids because I was hit a lot as a kid, and blah, 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 yay for me. And then I realized, but I yell at my kids. I've yelled at them many times, and when I yell at them, I'm not helping them change. I'm not doing anything for them. That's just to let go of my own frustration. So I think this is not a us and them situation. I think it's something we all need to look at in our homes.
And when children are growing up in that environment, and the children are growing up in a home where there is not just physical abuse, but mental abuse, not just by the dad on the mom or the mom, there's also that kind of abuse from the mom to the dad. The children, if they're not guided by some other person, grow up to think that this is normal, right?
That's exactly true. Although one of the things I always teach when I'm working with guys or working with anybody, I used to work with young mothers, having grown up, if you're an abuser or an abusive person, it's likely you grew up with abuse in your home. But having grown up with abuse in your home does not mean you have to be an abuser.
So how do you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sorry, we spoke over each other. How did you like these guys? I mean, eventually, or is it a case by case thing where sometimes you liked them and sometimes you really didn't like them?
Well, certainly it's a case-by-case thing. I can't say, that goes without saying in any group of men.
I guess so, yeah.
And goodness knows, God, did I meet a lot of men. Actually, it's funny. When I got engaged, one of the guys came in and noticed my ring, and he said, and he said, you got engaged. God, I hope you didn't meet him here.
Oh, no.
And he is funny. On the road to recovery with that statement. That's a good thing.
So what I will say is there were many men I liked very much, and some of them can be the most charming ones in the world, so you have to be careful. But I tried to use this philosophy when I was doing the work. Love the sinner, hate the sin. If you can't be empathic with somebody, you cannot help them on the path to change. And sometimes when it was an especially hot night and we didn't have air conditioning because it was in a church basement, and I was walking in knowing I was going to be sitting there with 20 sweaty guys.
Oh, no.
I really, I would pull up, I had to pull up something inside me. So I think of the movie Dead Man Walking with Susan Sarandon.
Right.
And I would say, okay, now you have to be Susan.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, it helped me.
And that's your middle name, so you can relate.
Exactly. But, if you want to, I was not their prison guard. I was not their social worker, but I was somebody who wanted to teach them to be differently in this world. And they did get inside me, so much so that sometimes it became quite toxic, the work.
Really?
And I had to learn ways to shake it off. Because, and also when you work and you're hearing people's confessions over and over and over again, you also have to learn not to be hardened to it. So it's a balance.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, like be burned out by it or something. Trying to help people.
Exactly.
The book is called Accidents of Marriage. Randy, we have to take a little break here, but when we come back, it'll be no breaks until the bottom of the hour. The book is called Accidents of Marriage. Randy Susan Meyers is our guest. She wrote the book, and it's a novel. And I guess that's going to be my question when I come back. So I'll give her kind of a heads up of what I'm going to ask. Is how she decided to take this and make it into a novel, and was it a way to teach us, the readers? We'll take a little break, and we'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. It'll be partly sunny today with a thunderstorm in spots, high 88 to 92. Through to partly cloudy tonight, there can be a shower or thunderstorm along the coast, low 71 to 75. Tomorrow, partly sunny with a thunderstorm around into the afternoon hours, high 88 to 92. Thursday, times of clouds and sunshine with a chance of a shower, high 86 to 90. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Sign up for this year's Marion County Heart Walk and be part of a local movement that's helping others live longer, healthier lives. Join me, Corey Poole, your 2014 Marion County Heart Walk Chairman, and walk with me on Saturday, October the 4th at the Baseline Road Trailhead. It's a free event promoting physical activity and heart-healthy living. To find out how you can help fight the #1 killer of all Americans, visit us online at marionheartwalk.org.
Who would you feed if you had 50 chicken sandwiches from Chick-fil-A? WOCA and Chick-fil-A in the Paddock Mall have teamed up to reward one organization with 50 chicken sandwiches as a way of saying thanks for the great work that organization is doing in our community. And we need your help. See, there are so many great people doing great things that we need nominations. You can nominate your own organization or any organization you choose. Simply send an email to WOCA@WOCA.com. And in 350 words or less, tell us why the organization you are nominating should receive 50 free chicken sandwiches from WOCA and Chick-fil-A at the Paddock Mall. We'll review your nominations and then select one deserving organization each month. We'll announce the winner and even read the winning entry on the air. Make sure to include the contact name and phone number of the organization that you are nominating. And thanks from your friends at WOCA and Chick-fil-A in the Paddock Mall.
Are you tired of not using your home's outdoor space for entertaining or relaxation because of all the bugs and leaves? Consider adding a beautiful screen room or glass enclosure. We are Superior Aluminum and Design, a family-owned and operated business with 20 years experience in the aluminum industry, and we are accredited by the Better Business Bureau. If you appreciate superior workmanship, call Superior Aluminum and Design at 817-8058 or visit us on the web at superiораluminumdesign.com.
You hear a lot of announcements on WOCA, but you don't want to miss this one. The Salvation Army Church Indoor Yard Sale is happening on Saturday, September 6th from 8 a.m. till 1 p.m. and everything is priced to move. Over 5 truckloads of Christmas items, clothing, furniture, knickknacks, and books. Doors open at 8 a.m. and there will be a little of everything. Go to 2901 Northeast 14th Street here in Ocala. Thank you for supporting the Salvation Army programs.
All right, 18 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for waiting through the break. Accidents of Marriage is the title of the book that we are focusing on this morning. Randy Susan Meyers is the author, and she's on the phone up in Boston with a Brooklyn accent. And just to recap, one of the reasons why Randy is on for a longer period of time than the novelists typically are is because this is not just a novel. This is a novel written from somebody who's got a lot of insightful observations, I guess you would say, about people who've been abused, people who are abusers, people who've just been nasty. And I can imagine, Randy, thank you for waiting through the break, by the way. I can imagine, let me see, how do I relate to this? I'll tell you, Robert will tell you, I've never hit anybody. I even when my son was little, I was not a spanker. No. You know, I don't even think I yelled. Maybe I raised my voice a couple of times. But, here's the big but, my dog got my wrath. I don't mean I kicked my dog. I wasn't a dog abuser, but I did spank my dog on the butt when, So I figured that was the only way to communicate with her. Mm-hmm. So this is how I'm going to relate to this from the batterer's point of view. if my dog is listening, I really didn't batter you.
Yeah.
You were a fine little puppy when you were little.
You just had to learn how to be potty trained.
But I would swat her, okay? And so now I'm looking back, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But it did stop the poop from happening on the floor. But I remember, and here's where I'm going with this. I can remember feeling so bad. It's like, oh man. And then I would hug her. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hit you. But you got to learn.
Yeah.
And it looks like, from what I know from the book, that your man character who puts his wife in a coma through an accident, right? Do I have that right?
You are, but go no further with the giveaways.
Oh, okay, we don't want to spoil anything.
What happened? Okay.
Wow, but he's like, the love he has for her is obvious then, but it wasn't when he did what he did.
And that is the crux of everything. It's about collateral damage. It's about the things that happen that we never expect to. Most of the men I worked with were like shocked that they had done what they did. I mean, some of them were well aware, but some of them were like, wow, how did I let that? I never expected her to get a broken jaw. One guy had murdered his wife, and
wow,
he had never meant to. I mean, it's awful. So a lot of why I wrote this book is, well, first of all, I read it because I love writing a page-turning book, and I'm praying it's that. And I love writing.
Everybody who's read it is telling me that. So,
but so I like to put the gotta know. Stephen King calls it the gotta know. You have to put a gotta know, so you have to know what happens. But then I love to write the what if, and I think most fascinating books come from a what if from the author. And I was driving around a rotary that I went to every day on my way to work, just where I would be meeting the guys. So, I was always sort of thinking about my clients, and it was a horrible rotary. Rotaries are all over Boston. and at the same time I was riding around this rotary, for some reason I started thinking about my husband. My husband's a much more impatient driver than I am. I mean, he's not a Ben. He's a great guy, but he's impatient. And I would often say to him when he was behind somebody, he'd go, "Oh, my process is so slow." That's me. You're driving behind me. And I started thinking, wow, it could happen. A guy could really hurt their wife, not meaning to, because they're not watching their own rage. And that was actually the first thing I thought of is, what if that happened in a rotary? And it all started there. I actually wrote a whole piece on the rotary. The rotary ended up not being in the book, but the rotary is what started it. And I think what happens in a marriage when you do love each other, but everything weighs down on you so much that you start being really careless and more careless, and you start taking things out on your wife, on your children, on your husband.
That's absolutely. Oh, and so when you say "and your husbands," the wives do it too. It's not just a male thing.
Yeah.
But I know mostly it's probably 98% men. But what is the rotary? I thought you meant like the civic group. What do you mean by
the turnaround?
I don't know. That's so. You're really funny, Larry. Let me educate you on
the rotary. I thought you meant like the guys at the Rotary Club. They were just nasty.
Yes, those are the ones we have to watch out.
Okay.
I think in Ireland they call it a roundabout.
Okay, that's what we call it here too. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember any roundabouts on Long Island. They don't have them on Long Island, do they?
No, actually, there's no rotaries or roundabouts anywhere in Brooklyn either. Well, there's one.
Not enough room.
The Grand Army Plaza, the only one I know.
Well, you're not a surface writer because you have double meanings for statements that you write in the book, even your title of the book.
I don't know where it comes from. I just know one thing. I don't like reading books that are facile. It just doesn't appeal to me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. It just doesn't appeal to me. I like getting... I'll say it this way. When I ran the groups, I used to love the moments when one guy would admit something really intense, and all the other guys would go, and it became like the church choir.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And we'd all be nodding. And that's what I like in books. I like that, And I think that by revealing the nastiest, dirtiest inside parts of us, it allows other people to go, yeah, I have that inside also. Or the other way is to have people think, oh, at least I don't do that, thank God. So people feel a lot better. But I don't mind going really deep. I don't worry about what my husband reads. I don't worry about my children. I feel really safe and secure. And I don't worry if people think it's me, because you know what I learned as a writer, especially now by my third book? People always think it's you. They think everyone is you. Yeah. The cheater, the cheaty, the mean one, the saint, the dog. They think everything is you.
The dog. I like that.
So just give into it and let it rip.
So I do that same thing. Robert, let me tell you, we've been doing these interviews for 12 years on this show, and we did a show before this one.
Yeah.
So we've read a ton of books, and I do this every time. I do exactly what you're saying. I wonder if this is you, if this is, if anybody in the book is you, and I do it every time. It's probably not a good thing.
But you know what? I know how much it's not, me, and how much. And of course, we'll all bring up emotional parts of it. There's pieces of me in there. Absolutely. Any writer who says there's not a little bit of me anywhere in here is lying to you, by the way. We all have emotional resonance that comes through. There's our obsessions. And even if we're writing science fiction, you're still bringing in your own emotional resonance. There's just, it's absolutely there. But I am in a writer's group. I have many friends who are writers, and I do the same thing. I read the books, and I go, oh, I wonder if that's them.
Oh, good. I'm glad. But by the way, it says in my letter that we got from your publicist that you are, you were chosen as People Magazine's book pick of the week for September 15th issue of People.
That's what they tell me. I'm holding on until I actually see it.
Oh, that's cool.
But if it's true, I got to tell you, I'm a People Magazine girl, so I'm going to be really happy.
That'll move some books. Yeah. We're going to take credit for that. So when the book starts selling, you say, I was on that show with Larry and Robin. That's probably what did it.
That's going to absolutely be. I'm actually already writing the piece in my head for what I'm going to write about that.
One of the issues that you address in the book has to do with 14-year-old Emma. I mean, she was thrown into the circumstance where she has to take the role of parent for the other siblings. But you see that in real life, that the parents, this was because of the circumstance, but in real life, you see the parents, there is no circumstance, but they refuse to take responsibility for the younger siblings and just throw the responsibility on the older one, which I feel is very wrong.
Oh, that I really find the point of view of the child to be so incredible. That's how I started with my first book, In the Murderer's Daughters, which is about two sisters who witnessed their father kill their mother and then their life for the next 32 years. We so often never think about the ones on the side. We're so caught up in the drama of the immediate victims.
Right.
And the kids are the ones who are just absorbing every bit. And everybody's rushing around Ben and Maddie, and Emma ends up picking up all the care for her little siblings. They're much younger than her, Caleb and Gracie. And she just is under so much pressure. She's keeping the secrets her father's making her keep. She's taking care of them. She's feeling guilty because the last time she saw her mom, she was fighting with her.
Oh, no.
And her point of view just, I loved writing, and it broke my heart. Everybody breaks my heart.
So I guess the question, and I meant to ask you this after the break, and I slipped because I have so many things to ask you, but in writing this story with your background and your skill, obviously, as a novelist, did you decide to write a novel based on this subject to educate us, to enlighten us, to change us in some way?
I think I choose the novels I choose to write out of my own obsessions and passions. Not like I say, what would be, I can't pick a topic and say this would be a great thing to write about. It really does come from, I am a really obsessive person.
But I think maybe some guy, I'll be sexist in this case, I think some guy will read this who maybe is on the verge, or maybe he's actually gone over the edge a couple of times, and maybe see himself and then say, you know what, I'm going to stop before this happens.
Oh, I get letters from people all the time about all of my books saying, thank you so much, this is me, you've made such a difference. I think it comes from, that happens, but I'm not consciously trying to do that as much as I'm trying to write a great book about something I'm passionate about. And I've always been passionate about things about justice. Even, when I was a little girl, I was obsessed. I was immediately marked by being an early reader and reading everything I could about slavery and the Holocaust.
Oh, really?
From there was born a monster.
You are a joy to talk to. I know that Robin and I always, after the show's over, we look back at the guests we had that morning. I know you'll be one that we talk about for a while. Randy, thank you for being on the air with us today. For the listeners, I have a copy of Randy's book. It's called Accidents of Marriage. It's actually an advanced reader's copy, so it's kind of like a collector's item. And in the middle of this month, People magazine is going to send this flying off the shelves, so you can say you had it first and probably read it before then. So give us a call right now if you want the copy. I have 622-9622. Randy, I've got like 20 seconds. Do you have a website?
RandySusanMeyers.com. Very easy. And the Meyers is Meyers. RandyMeyers. .com. RandySusanMeyers.com.
Well, Randy, thank you for being on the air with us today, and please come back for the next one.
You betcha. You guys are an absolute delight.
All right, we'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Our military striking back at an extremist group in Somalia, which attacked an interrogation center.
It's unclear whether the drone strike took out the leader of the al-Shabaab terror group, which has links to al-Qaeda. This is the same group that attacked a mall in Nairobi.